That's right, the Quest 3 is 100% coming this year. It's been confirmed yet again, so anyone that says we don't know if it's coming this year is 100% wrong. I've seen some places say, well, how do we know? And nobody's confirmed that. Well, there is confirmation 100% that the Quest 3 is coming later this year. How do we know that? Well, let's turn to Mark Zuckerberg. Recently, there was a quarterly earnings call that Mark Zuckerberg had between the investors and himself about everything going on in Meta's companies, and a part of that talked about the upcoming Quest headset. But it also talked about some news that's been circulating around for a little while, both on Reddit and on other platforms, saying that Mark Zuckerberg has lost his interest in what he calls the metaverse vision. Now, I'm not 100% fond of the metaverse name itself, but whatever he wants to call it, if it means putting money into VR, I'm totally okay with that. But it's being passed around that Mark Zuckerberg was losing his focus on the metaverse and shifting it to artificial intelligence. Well, he made it very clear in this earnings call when he said a narrative has developed that we're somehow moving away from focusing on the metaverse vision. So I just want to say up front that that's not accurate. We've been focusing on both AI and the metaverse for years now, and we will continue to focus on both. So it seems as if Mark is squashing those rumors that he's moving past the metaverse and focusing primarily on AI. He is focusing on AI, as has the company been for a while, but the focus has not dropped for the metaverse. Now, there was also some information floating around that said that they were losing interest in the metaverse and focusing more on gaming. And I almost did a video on that, but decided to wait, and I'm glad that I did. I don't know if that's accurate or not. What I do know is there are bigger games coming, and I can say that with 100% certainty that you will be excited when you hear some of these games that are coming out very soon, or at least in the coming future. Meta is not changing focus. It's not shifting away from VR or whatever they want to call this metaverse thing. In fact, I believe that with the Quest 3 headset that is coming, and we'll get to that comment in just a second, it's going to just accelerate and get even better. Later on in the same earnings call, Mark said that in the near term, we've reached a few milestones that I think are worth calling out. More than 1 billion meta avatars have now been created. Now keep in mind, that's not just avatars in VR. They're also used across the platforms, but that's still quite a few in VR, I'm guessing. He also continued to say, since last year, the number of titles in the Quest store with at least 25 million in revenue has doubled. More than half of Quest daily actives now spend more than an hour using their devices, so retention is getting better as new games come out and stuff comes out that people are interested in. He also went on to say the next milestone is that we're gearing up to launch our next generation consumer virtual and mixed reality device later this year. We launched Quest 2 almost 3 years ago at this point. It was a very big step forward for VR, and I'm really excited to show the world all the improvements and new technology we've developed since then at a price point that'll be accessible for lots of people. What does that mean? I don't know what that means for accessible for a lot of people. Under 500 is the guess. I still think it's going to be probably $499, but I hope I'm pleasantly surprised and it's dropped down to like $299 like the Quest 2 was at launch to subsidize the headset or whatever with games and then just get a lot of people on board. I don't know that that'll happen, but I can hope. So there you go. Later this year, specific to this conversation, he said, our next generation consumer, virtual, and mixed reality device later this year. That probably means the final quarter of this year. My prediction is that Connect will either be at the end of September or the beginning of October, and we're either going to see an announcement for a holiday release or a release at that time for the Quest 3. If you want to know all the information about the Quest 3 that we currently know, I'll put a link in the description for a video. I'm not going to go over all of that. There's a whole bunch of leaks and stuff of what the headset could be like, or at least has the likelihood to be like, although things could have changed between then and now. I personally am really excited to see what the Quest 3 is, get my grubby little hands on it and try it out, especially if it's as small and light as people say that it's going to be and twice as powerful. So Quest 3 is 100% coming later this year. One bit of bad news that kind of came before this earnings call, there was these rumors floating around, that Meta was shifting focus back to gaming and that all the gaming studios were not going to be affected by layoffs. Unfortunately, that was not accurate. On the 19th of April, which you probably heard, there was layoffs again at Meta. not just from game studios. Now, don't get me wrong, this is specific about games, but I also feel and hurt for the people that were not in games, whether they were in areas of VR or not. A lot of people got laid off at Meta. Around 4,000 jobs, I think, were cut. This includes people from studios like Ready at Dawn, the studio behind Lone Echo and the Echo Arena game. On Twitter, people were saying that about 1/3 of the staff at Ready at Dawn were actually laid off. I don't know anything specific for numbers if that's actually 100% accurate, but there was definitely people laid off at Ready at Dawn, as well as Downpour Interactive, the studio behind Onward, which there's been rumors of Onward 2 coming in the future. Don't know if this affects that or not, but there was several people let go from that company as well. Speaking of games, there's a few new games coming out for the Quest that were recently announced. In fact, Battle Talent, I've featured it on the channel a couple of times. It has mod support. It's a really cool fighting simulator that's physics-based. It's getting an official release on the Quest 2 on June 1st. So it's moving from App Lab to the official store. You're seeing the trailer here on screen right now. Looks to be some new stuff that I have not played around with. I think it's going to be really cool. I like this game anyways, playing the pre-release version. I've been playing it since it was on SideQuest and then on App Lab, and now it's going to get an official release, so hopefully it'll get the attention it deserves. It's going to be launching on June 1st for $19.99. Another game recently announced as coming soon, No More Rainbows. This is like a platforming type of game that uses similar locomotion as Gorilla Tag, which is like arm-based locomotion to move around. I haven't personally actually played this game. There was a demo available on App Lab. Actually, it's still available until May 2nd that you can check it out. They're going to be pulling it down, but if you do download it, you actually get an exclusive free cosmetic if you've downloaded it at some point in time. That's going to be disappearing after May 2nd, but the game is supposed to be launching officially on the Quest store somewhere down the line. Speaking of launching soon, next week, a game that I have been looking forward to. Well, I mean, let me put it this way. I've been looking forward to it, although I know it's going to be absolutely terrifying. Propagation Paradise Hotel launches next week on the Quest 2, and it looks frightening and fantastic. You're seeing the new trailer on screen right now. Keep an eye on the channel as I'll have a video out next week on this game, but I am ready to be terrified and know I'm not going to finish this game or even come close to finishing this game. But dang, it looks amazing. It kind of gives me like those original Resident Evil vibes. You know, the way that it looks and feels and kind of the way that the environment is. I can't wait. Anyways, comes out next week. Speaking of games coming next week, there's actually a couple of more games that were just added to the coming soon section of the Quest store. The first one is Survival Nation. This is like a zombie survival type of game. I have not played this, but I've seen some gameplay on YouTube and it actually looks kind of interesting. It kind of is like an RPG survival game with things like the hit number being displayed when you hit the zombies. So it seems to be using like a random roll hit system, stuff like that, collecting things, surviving, cooking. It's kind of like an RPG, but based in a zombie apocalypse, which sounds kind of cool. That comes out next week. And also Rogue Ascent VR comes out next week as well. One of my favorite, actually probably the best hand tracking game, full game currently on the Quest platform. This is a fantastic game. It's been on App Lab for a little while. I highly recommend checking it out if you want something really cool with hand tracking. It plays fantastic and it just feels really, really good. It is a rogue-like style game, but with hand tracking. One more thing before I let you go for the weekend, Virtual Desktop is adding support for a brand new upscaling feature that should allow you to actually get better PC VR from a less powerful PC. That's not to say you can run it on like absolutely everything, but this is called Snapdragon Game Super Resolution. I was actually reading about it this morning before it was announced that they've been working together with Snapdragon to bring it to Virtual Desktop. Just another amazing way that Virtual Desktop is making PC VR streaming to the Quest even better. I'll put a link down in the description to more information on what this is doing and how it works that Qualcomm released yesterday. So if you want to get into the technical stuff, you can check it out. Most of it I don't actually understand. There you go. That's all I've got for you for Quest 3 updates, new games coming, and Quest news for the weekend. If you want to check out another one of my videos, head to the link right there on the screen. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, stay safe, and happy questing.